Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. You're our favorite king. Being a pirate is alright with me. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. Yo ho, ahoy in a blast. Being a pirate is really badass. I'm the black flag of the end of the blast. You are a pirate.
Ahoy and welcome aboard. It's a pleasure to have you on my channel. I am Fween the Skull Pirate, and today's video we're going to be talking about my opinions on the whole Diablo fiasco from BlizzCon. Now, a lot of people have already been talking about this, and you're going to see a lot of other stuff out there about it. This is mostly going to be me talking about my thoughts on the matter, my fears for the future of Diablo and for this mobile game. Also, I'm going to be giving some advice from me to Activision Blizzard. Now that we've got that all out of the way, the next thing we're going to move into is going to be talking about the reception at BlizzCon first and foremost. We're just going to touch on this real quick, and then we'll move on, because there are so many other videos out there and other people who have already seen what happened at BlizzCon. You don't want to hear about it again. But basically what happened is Blizzard came in, they had a great opening ceremony, other than a few hiccups with the technology. That was during the Hearthstone reveal. They had to move off of that. But essentially, they went in and talked about everything they'd accomplished over the last year. They talked about all of the new things they're going to be releasing for Overwatch, for World of Warcraft, for Hearthstone. They even talked about the new Warcraft 3 Reforged, which I am personally extremely happy for. We were thinking maybe we're going to get a Diablo game that was going to be revamped, like Diablo or Diablo 2 was going to get redone, but they decided to do Warcraft 3, which is great. But that made everyone think that Diablo was going to be getting a different announcement, because everyone thought, well, if they're not going to be announcing Diablo 4, maybe they're announcing a re-release of Diablo 2. Well, what ended up happening is we had all this great news and all this exciting information coming out for all these other games and everything else that Blizzard's doing, and then Diablo announced Diablo Immortal. It caused a lot of hate and backlash from the community. Now, what I believe is not so much that it was the game itself that caused the backlash. It was the way that it was presented. And this is all on Blizzard at this point, because the game, from what I've seen, and you can see in the background behind me, is looking great. I mean, it doesn't look like a bad game. I'm not going to say that I know anything about the gameplay, because I wasn't at BlizzCon, so I didn't get to play the demo. And it's not available yet on beta or anything like that on my phone, so I can't play it to tell you what my thoughts are on the gameplay itself. But it looks good. And I'll continue running that in the background so that you have something to look at and understand what the game actually looks like. And how they're adding in a lot of new features and things like that that we really wanted to see in Diablo 3 or in an upcoming Diablo title that was for PC, not the mobile game. But aside from the reception that the game got at BlizzCon, there is a lot that could be said about how it looks to the community. Not how the game looks to the community, but how the reception it received looks. This was a big deal. This was Blizzard in their own house. This wasn't a PAX announcement. As it was at BlizzCon, this was expected to be a big announcement. Like when they announced Hearthstone at PAX, it was kind of a, we're not sure how we feel about this from the community. But it came out, we enjoyed it, it was a decent game, it was a great card game, and they announced that it was going to be released for mobile and PC. That we were able to play it on our phones, or we're able to go home and play it on our computer. Or if we're out on our laptop, we can play it. And that's what a lot of people were hoping for when they announced Diablo Immortal. And that's what a lot of people were hoping for when they thought that there would be a mobile game announced, is that it was going to be something that you could play on your phone, go home and play on your computer, or maybe even, if possible, be able to play on your computer and then, hey, you've got to go somewhere, and while you're sitting on the bus or whatever, you could be playing that same character from your PC on your phone and just continue the gameplay. And that would have been amazing, but what we got was a mobile-only game as the sole announcement from BlizzCon for Diablo. As a result, what we saw was a lot of people getting upset because we were expecting a teaser for Diablo 4, even though Blizzard said they weren't going to be saying anything about Diablo 4 at BlizzCon. It was still something that people were hoping for. And there's also the possibility it could have been an announcement for a Diablo MMO, but that didn't happen either. This is technically going to be playable like an MMO, because that's what a lot of mobile games are going over to, is a MMO format. But this isn't your typical MMO. It's not a PC game that you can jump into, you pay a subscription, you've got raids, and you're online with all your buddies. No, this is, you jump into an open world and you can, at this time, run dungeons with 3 other people as a 4-man dungeon. There may be more news over time as the game gets more revved up and starts coming closer to release and all that, but from what we see right now, it's just a nice looking game. There's not really anything that we know to any extent about it. And we can see that there's some new abilities and things like that that we were hoping to get in a PC game. But that's what we get, is mobile game as the only announcement. And that made a lot of people very upset. So now that we've got the reception it received out of the way, we're going to move on into what I think this means for Blizzard. Activision has been stepping up into Blizzard's properties a lot more. Now, we know that Activision and Blizzard try and say they're still working on their separate things. Blizzard's doing Blizzard stuff, and Activision's doing their thing, and they're just working together. But what we've been seeing lately is Activision stepping more and more into the Blizzard world. And not for the better in most cases. We've got more games available through Battle.net, but it's Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Destiny 2. 2 games that had a lot of community backlash because of how they were handled. And now we're seeing a Blizzard title that's getting a lot of backlash from the way it's handled. And it's starting to look more and more like Activision is taking a more active role in the way Blizzard is handling their business. And I don't know how well this bodes for the community as a whole, just because of the fact that Blizzard has always been about the community. They've been about making great games that people can enjoy and sit down and play and replay and then go back and play with friends and just enjoy for hours and hours on end. Whereas Activision mostly cares about a game that'll pull in players and make them money. That's not just my opinion, that's what I've seen. That is the evidence that they have presented to us. They have not shown us recently that they care about making quality gameplay over making money. Because you see that they pulled pretty much all of the single-player campaign out of Call of Duty. I mean, Black Ops, there used to be a single-player campaign, then the online multiplayer, and then zombies. Well, there's not a single-player campaign anymore. It's just online multiplayer and zombies. Yes, they added in the deathmatch, or the Battle Royale, but that Battle Royale is not a single-player campaign. It's only so much fun to jump in, shoot at people, and then die. You can talk about Activision and how it's other companies involved with Activision that are doing these things, but on the whole, you see Activision and everything they're involved in has a similar business model. It has a similar way that it goes. And usually it's about pulling in people and not retaining them. It's all about pulling them in, making those initial sales numbers, and then not caring, washing their hands of it. Whereas Blizzard has always been on the opposite model, where they'll make a game and they'll say, here, we put a lot of heart and soul into this, we put a lot of thought into this, and we hope you enjoy it. And then it will draw people in over time and eventually become a huge thing. And that's why their titles have survived as long as they have. And Activision is starting to hurt this. Now, this brings in my fears for the future. Now, Diablo Immortal, while it looks like a good game, from what I've seen, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good for the community. Because if they decide that this is just going to be a cash grab like a lot of mobile games have been recently, I mean, you look over the last couple of years, all of the mobile games that come out, 9 out of 10 of them, if not more, are going to be cash grabs. It's going to be a reskin of a game that just came out a few months prior, or it's going to be a game that it's loaded down with microtransactions and paywalls and all this sort of stuff that you can play up to a certain point, but then after that, you either have to pay a lot of money into the game to make it worthwhile to keep playing, or they just come out with another version that's basically the exact same thing with a different skin on it. And that's one of the fears for this game, is if Blizzard doesn't hold to their guns in this and tell NetEase and Activision and everybody else that's involved with it, hey, this is a Diablo game, we're going to do it the Diablo way, we're going to end up with things like the Necromancer pack from Diablo 3, where they're going to release content for the mobile game and you're going to have to pay for it. You won't be able to play it. You'll see all these other people out there playing it that they went out and spent the money, but then maybe you don't have the money to spend on it, or maybe you don't want to waste your hard-earned cash on something you shouldn't have to be paying for. You get a lot of MOBAs like Heroes of the Storm, and you get, even in Hearthstone, which is not a MOBA, but you get the ability to earn in-game currency. MOBAs, Hearthstone, all these different types of games, you can earn in-game currency to purchase unlocks, characters, skins, card packs, whatever. You can play it, earn in-game currency, and purchase it. Diablo 3? Necromancer pack? No. You have to pay money for that. Now, whether you decide to play World of Warcraft and pay for a subscription to get enough gold playing that to buy a balance card for Battle.net so that you can go pay for the Rise of the Necromancer out of that, is all up to you, but you're still paying money into that. You're still paying for your subscription to WoW, and you're using your hard-earned gold in that instead of something for your character in WoW towards something that's part of a completely different game. And there should be ways to pay with in-game currency, even if you make it a large amount. Like if you say, hey, this is going to cost you 500,000 or 5 million gold or whatever. If you are able to make that much gold easily, then what's the big deal? You're playing the game to unlock something in the game. MOBAs, Hearthstone, you can earn in-game currency, pay for content. Recently with Diablo, we have seen the opposite. And moving into the mobile platform, if they adopt that same model with Diablo Immortal, I'm afraid it's not going to be a great game, especially for me. I don't like spending money on phone games. I play phone games, yes, but playing the games is one thing. I enjoy a game that I can sit down and play and not have to worry about getting stuck behind a paywall. So there's a lot of games I won't touch on my phone, specifically because of that. And if Diablo Immortal comes out and it's a great game, I'll play it. I was hoping for a Diablo mobile game. Was hoping for a little bit more than that at BlizzCon, especially with all the hype around Diablo going up to it. But I digress. Once we move past the issues at reception, once we move past the relationship that Activision and Blizzard have right now, and how it's morphing and evolving and changing into something that is not really looking great for the Blizzard community. And we look at previous choices Activision has made in regards to these things and the other games they've had their hand in. Now we got to worry about, how's the future look? Are we going to see something in the near future that should have been launched at BlizzCon for Diablo? Is it going to be a big announcement that they just held off on because they weren't quite sure that the content was ready to be out there, or that they didn't want to have to delay the release date even further after BlizzCon? Whatever it happens to be, we're still going to have to wait. We have to find out what Blizzard wants to do. Now, future Diablo games. If we see a Diablo 4, if we see a Diablo MMO, or if we see any sort of game coming out for PC, console, aside from Diablo Immortal, we may have to wait a little while for it, or it may come out at next BlizzCon, which is going to be rough on the fans, especially after what just happened. So, I mean, you could do a lot of things with Diablo that, if Activision really has that much of a hand in it and their money grubbing is really that bad, look how well WoW has done as far as bringing in revenue. You get your monthly subscriptions, you get your expansions, you get all of these things on top of the fact that they've got merchandise. They've got the online shop where you can buy additional mounts and pets and things like that. So, how about moving into a Diablo MMO? If Activision is pushing Blizzard in a direction where they want to make money off of the Diablo property, make a Diablo MMO. You can have 3 factions: the High Heavens, Burning Hells, Sanctuary. You can have the 3 races: angels, demons, and humans. Then you can have subsets in there of what type of classes you want to have. You can either have all the classes available to each of the races, or you could have race-specific classes, and you can have them all be able to ally with each other, just like in the Diablo universe. You could have angels working with demons, or demons working with humans, or any of the above combinations. And you're going to have your monthly subscription. You're going to have your initial launch purchase of the game. You're going to have the possibility of expansions. And on top of all this, you can build the backstory of the world of Diablo. You can start working on the lore. You can bring all of that information that has been gathered over the years for Diablo into this world and start expanding on it. Diablo Immortal on the phone, they're talking about what happened 5 years after Diablo 2 and 15 years before Diablo 3. Okay, that's great. That's awesome. Getting to see some of the time in between the games. What about all the other information that we could get? You could have a whole nother game that's set before the events of the original Diablo. You could have a game that's set after the events of Diablo 3. You could have a game that's set over the course of all of the games. And this could be a Diablo 4. Or it could be a Diablo MMO. And this is something that I don't know if Blizzard is working on, because they're talking about multiple projects from multiple teams right now. They could just mean the multiple teams that are working on all of these plus one other project. Or they could actually have 2 or 3 or more other Diablo projects in the works. Diablo Immortal would have done a lot better at launch and reception if they had made it a mobile and PC game, much like Hearthstone. I understand that Blizzard looked at the release for Hearthstone and saw the poor reception, and that was at PAX. So what made them think that doing a mobile-only game as their primary reveal at BlizzCon would have gone over any better? I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and showing their love by watching the video the whole way through like this. If you wouldn't mind, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will leave a link to my Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch channel in the bottom in case you want to get a hold of me and ask me any questions about anything I went over in this video or any of my other videos, or even if you just want to chat. I also share memes constantly on Instagram, so there's that. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the high seas.